you young fellers now and hear what I will say. I don't speak of prophecy, don't speak of judgment day. What we do see coming, we have seen it come before. It came for our forefathers, yet we speak of it no more. California, Oregon, and Granger massacre. The iron heel is pressing and will crush you neath their feet. You will see the fires burning, then you'll smell the blood. We will fight our brothers till we're lying in the mud. Come all you young fellers now and hear what I will say. The future of oppression, it was written yesterday. Florida.
Yeah? Hey, welcome everybody to another episode of the Eskwilax Hour. This is episode 73. You guys know the Eskwilax Hour, where we bring you art, artists, interviews, and today it's a special episode. We got news for you, 2016 news that involve California and everybody just in the country itself. And yeah, the Eskwilax Hour, you guys know, 5 p.m. right here in Boyle Heights, California. Today we have David, Patrick, and Jeanette. They're gonna come talk to us about anti-Prop 64. So, Patrick, if you come right on and say hi to everybody.
It is so fantastic to be here today.
Thank you,
Very
Patrick.
excited.
Thank you. And of course, Patrick, he's a friend of Prop 215, along with Jeanette. She'll be on in a second. So, Patrick, tell us a little bit about where did you make the trip from today?
Oh, I'm out in the Inland Empire right now, which is ironic because 20 years ago I met Jack Hare and they were working, well, actually a little bit more than that. In 1990, I started working with Jack Hare on the California Cannabis Hemp Initiative. We're trying to progressively legalize cannabis here in California. And over those early years of the 90s, there was a strong emphasis in the San Fernando Valley, a lot of energy going on in Venice Beach, but very little going on in the Inland Empire. So me and a little crew, we volunteered and we hit the Inland Empire.
Yeah.
We got signatures for what seemed like the most radical thing in the world at that time.
Yeah.
Medical marijuana.
What
And
year?
it passed.
What year was that, you said?
That was 1995, and heading into the 96 season. And we not only changed the laws about cannabis here in California,
Yeah.
kind of changed the way the whole world sees cannabis. The medical marijuana, really, people forget that wasn't vernacular 20 years ago. So today, we've opened up the minds of people in the world about the potentials of cannabis. We want to protect and defend that, as well as move forward.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you, Patrick, for coming by. We know this one was a little bit, we kind of just put it together like the beginning of this week, but it's a good thing everybody made it out. Thank everybody for that.
Good, thank you.
You, Jeanette, and David. And yeah, so tell us about 215.
215 is one of my favorite bills in the world. It's really a simple one-page bill guaranteeing to people of California protection for the use of cannabis as medicine. And in California, we made it so simple to get that. Dennis Perone and many of us believe that technically all use is medical use.
Yeah.
Even people think they're being recreational, they're actually still feeding their endocannabinoid system, treating stress, taking away little pains. It's the nature of the medicine. And so 215 opened up that door, and although we believe all uses as medical use, and we're comfortable with that here in California, we do want to see it to be fully legal. We do want to see, most importantly, the industrial potentials. You might not know this, but from head to toe, I'm wearing all cannabis, all hemp.
Cannabis, all hemp.
Cannabis hemp. My Mercedes-Benz runs on hemp oil.
Nice.
1/3 of all Mercedes-Benz built in the world today, in 2016, made out of cannabis hemp.
Yeah, and that's the kind of information people need to know, because you know it's out there, it's every day. But
Estimate the cannabis market right now in California is somewhere between 10 and 15 billion dollars. Industrial hemp coming out of the Central Valley could be 1 to 2 to 4 to 6 trillion dollars per year into our local economy. At the point that we can produce our own fuel, produce the world's most perfect human food, produce the resources we need for plastics and building materials, all out of a locally grown product.
Yeah.
We're the Saudi Arabia of the 21st century. We're already the world's most famous cannabis market. People know us, know California's got the golden green, the AAA grade, top notch, and yet we could be one of the world's great producers of industrial hemp, which is going to be the larger market and the larger impact on our environment and on the larger global economy than even the medical marijuana market's been so far.
Yeah, that's exactly why I decided to, as David, he's a friend of mine, he mentioned it the other day, and I'm like, yeah, we'll definitely do a show about it, because I do have friends, like you said, they have stress, they have all, different needs. Absolutely. And then they do have their medical cards, they get their medicine, or their, it helps them. So, and then when you mentioned that, or when he mentioned that, essentially the new prop is going to take away a lot of, it's going to attack everything that's...
This is what we're worried about. This is what we fear. They call it UMA, the Adult Use of Marijuana Act. It's known now, it just got its prop number, so it's Prop 64, and it is the worst we've ever seen. I've read a lot of cannabis legalization bills in the last 25 years, some better than others. This one's particularly bad, and they did take out some of the worst points in the last 4 or 5 months. When they first introduced it, they wanted to put everything heinous that there was into it. They pulled some of that out, but not nearly enough. The core problem with the Adult Use of Marijuana Act is it's a hyper-regulation. It's a super hyper regulatory body they're trying to put around one of the most safe and useful plants known to nature, known to man in nature. And the loss of freedom, the loss of ability to use this plant is what's going to hurt us the most. I believe the billionaires have come to realize that 300 or 400 well-funded growers with mega warehouses in the state could actually produce the exact same amount of California cannabis as 150,000, maybe 200,000 growers that are working on it full-time now. But in 50 years, that hundreds of thousands of growers have produced the brand. They've created the name and reputation of the #1 sought-after cannabis on the planet. We will lose that brand in 5 or 10 years. They surely could probably produce the exact same amount per weight, with several hundred people controlling that market, but it will not be the quality. And in 4, 5, 10 years, California cannabis will mean nothing. It'll mean B-grade commercial Monsanto
commercial. That's
nobody's gonna want.
That's the part that got me interested. The whole Monsanto thing. It's just like all the other, the products that they make, right?
Absolutely.
And then they're just
one
controlling
poison after another from the nightmares of the 70s and 80s, the largest class action lawsuits in history against a company. They have really tainted themselves and really probably tainted the whole planet, but their reputation's failing quickly. In the last 2 years, they've had massive layoffs. They've been kicked out of Russia, a lot of Eastern Europe, a lot of South America, kind of done with Monsanto. And a brilliant author named Ellen Brown, if you get a chance to look her up, she wrote a series of articles called Monsanto, Bayer, and the Corporatization of Cannabis. And that is about UMA campaign this year, and she frames it so beautifully and so thoroughly by the second part of this article, and I believe there may be a couple more parts coming, that Monsanto may not survive the next 5 to 10 years with the massive economics hits and the lawsuits and all the problems they're having. One of the few life vests big enough in the world to keep Monsanto at least afloat for the next 5 to 10 years would be the California cannabis market.
Yeah.
And the reason they have Sean Parker and Donald Lyman and these people being the front for them is because they know their reputation's tarnished. They know even the average citizen's skeptical of Monsanto. And they wouldn't hand the cannabis industry over, so they have front people, globalists, running their campaign. But we've come to find that a lot of the money is coming from Pfizer, Bayer, Monsanto, the big global players so desperately want cannabis. And it took a researcher like Ellen Brown to really frame the fact that It may not be who sells who weed in California. It may be the survival of Monsanto rests on what happens this November in California. So it may be up to you and me and our community whether Monsanto manages to seize the global food. They aren't just interested in cannabis. They're very close to controlling the world's food supply, which they then pervert with weird experiments. Nothing Monsanto's ever done has been proven to be safe or effective. Actually, we're finding it to be less effective than organic farming and natural farming. Plus, the dangers are perhaps this generation, but it's looking more like the next generation are going to carry the brunt of the damage done by Monsanto's just little experiments with our food. And I think we all know the last thing we want is the experiment to be done with our cannabis. We cannot be smoking something that's not natural, not safe. And yet, it is my understanding today that in Uruguay, the only legal cannabis in Uruguay is Monsanto already genetically engineered cannabis. Very few people are talking about that.
Yeah, I read about that.
It's it's kind of a quiet story, big story. That
they started it out there to see what it actually, how it will work.
Absolutely.
And they're trying to do the same thing over here.
Everybody's talking about Uruguay, but no one wants to talk about the details. When they legalized in Uruguay, it didn't make the cannabis growers in Uruguay legal. It made those who are willing to come to government offices, sign a lot of paperwork, pick up their seeds, take them home and grow them under heavy scrutiny and monitoring, then bring that herb back to the government who would then sell it. But Monsanto admitted that they put a marker. They've already genetically engineered the only legal cannabis being sold in Uruguay has a marker in it just for able to identify it from the black market, which is still everyone else in Uruguay. And now they're under hyper scrutiny. Cannabis sales wasn't a big thing in Uruguay 5 years ago, but once it went legal, now these guys are under the scrutiny of the global Monsanto corporate police state cracking down on all cannabis that doesn't have their genetic marker in it. And that's our greatest nightmare. I mean, that's the thing California prides itself on as much as anything, is we've created a diversity of strains in the state that perhaps matches the history of the planet. There may have been 5, 6, 7,000 strains in the last 200,000 years humanity's kind of used and spread and connected and interbred. We might have produced that in the last 50 years in this state. And that's, again, it's a point of pride for people here, the fear that in 10 years down the road, we might be back down to 50 strains, all of them tinkered with by Monsanto.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. They're not as natural as they're supposed to be.
No. They got these foods that they say they're going to produce a little pesticide in it that'll keep the bugs away. Yeah. Now people's intestines are producing pesticides. Right? They're literally growing these pesticides out of their, they say 50% of the people they tested in Western Europe that had eaten these foods were actually producing some level of pesticide in their gut, as if it were a plant growing in the field. So that's their potential, and they want to put stuff in our cannabis that we're putting in our heads, in our spirits. They want to hit our soul food and our spirit food and our medicine with some tweaked out experiment. Unacceptable.
And then 64 is like
64 is their tool. Without this, MRSA falls apart. They really tried to scare the people of the state in the last year. They passed a series of acts in Sacramento called MRSA, and they're supposed to be regulating medical marijuana, but they all crossed the line of the basic tenets of Prop 215. You can have as much medicine as you need. You can smoke it anywhere tobacco is smoked. It's a deal between you and your doctor. No one else is involved. Those were the parameters which still stand to this day as of every appellate court, and they've been challenged more in the last 20 years in California than almost any single law, and it stands solid today. You can smoke where tobacco is smoked. You can have as much medicine as you and your doctor decide you need. MRSA came in and said, well, we changed all that. And a lot of key players kind of went along and pretended like it was something new, like somehow MRSA had done something no other law could do in the last 20 years, change a ballot initiative. So under this kind of fake umbrella in the last 7 or 8 months, they've shut down dispensaries and growing and medical rights to even consume in 180 cities and counties around the state, based on a law that we all know is unconstitutional. You see in California, the ballot initiative, if the people vote on a law, it's right there next to constitutional law. Then there are the laws passed by the Senate, then there are the laws passed by the governor, and then there are the laws passed by other bodies, other local bodies. But the highest rung of law, the thing that nobody can touch, is something that people vote on. So that's the ballot initiative, that's Prop 215, that's how we got the most liberal freedoms for cannabis in the world today. I was at a High Times Cannabis Cup this weekend, and apparently California is the only place they can do them now like this. And there were 20,000 people there, and tables full of medicine, and people sharing and having fun and music. That's the environment we want. We want people to feel like they're first-class citizens. We don't want people to feel like you can have your cannabis, but you're forever cursed to be a second-class citizen. We call that Jim Crow laws. Like, you can be free, but you'll never be as free as me. You can be free, but really, you know, drinkers are the only real adults in the culture, and the cannabis smokers are always going to be considered dangerous, second-class kind of criminals, but we let them in because we wanted the tax money. Not acceptable. So yeah, in California, we're more than willing to hold on tight to our Prop 215 rights, defend our most progressive medical rights in the world, and then work towards something that's based in California with Californians, coming up with an agenda that works for us for recreational use, and again, more importantly, industrial use. Which in 2018, we believe we have a very clear and clean shot at promoting the Jack Herer initiative. Jack Herer, one of the state's great pioneers in cannabis knowledge, also wrote maybe the world's best initiative for dealing with cannabis in all of its forms. So encourage people to look up and study the history of legalization, because this isn't something we should just jump into and give it a shot. I'm watching a lot of activists be like, oh, but it said legalization, let's just back it up. Let's just support that, right? Sounds good. No, we owe it to ourselves. We literally owe it to the next generation, 7 generations ahead of us, to do our homework, to read the bill, to know the details, because what do they say? The devil's in the details. Well, I'll tell you, Dr. Donald Lyman's in these details, and there's a man who hates cannabis. There's a man who will publicly lie in mainstream media today about the nature and the science of cannabis, and he lies, as does Gavin Newsom. They both declare that they do not like cannabis. They do not want their children having to smell it. They don't like the culture. Donald Lyman says, this is not real medicine. It's fake medicine. These people get so stoned, they don't know they're sick anymore. That's the slant he's trying to put on it. We're such addicted personalities. We're so addicted to this medicine that we fool ourselves into thinking we're doing something good for ourselves. Meanwhile, we have hundreds of universities around the world mapping an endocannabinoid system that's making cannabis look more like a nutrient than like a drug.
All right, so let me just go back here a little bit. Just tell everybody, again, this is the Eskwilax Hour, and 73, we're talking about ALMA, is that how you say it?
Adult Use of Marijuana Act.
Adult Use Marijuana Act. So, let me see, do you want to just kind of tell people a little bit, again, just a quick.
All right, this is the year. It's very important that we vote no on UMA. We stop Prop 64, and these are all great hashtags. As important as it is for what you do in November on voting day, it is much more important that we make a daily ritual out of doing our politics in California right now. So we need everybody on Twitter. We need everybody on Instagram. We need everybody getting out on Facebook and hashtagging Stop AMA, No on AMA, Stop Prop 64, Fuck AMA, Fuck Sean Parker. Whatever message in that realm that you can put out on any level of social media is very important right now. This is where campaigns are spending hundreds of thousands and with them millions of dollars trying to influence the people. The people who are going to say, legalization, that's what we all want. Even those in the middle ground who don't like cannabis anymore recognize that we probably have the right to legalize. So we have to let them know that if you love cannabis, or you respect the rights of cannabis consumers in California, vote no on legalization. This will be the only bill on the ballot this year, Prop 64, and it is contemptible. It's not just bad, it's insulting. At its root, they always say, if you want to know the details, follow the money, right? So as I got into this, I came to realize there's 0 taxes going to the general fund. All the money goes into what they call a slush fund, because it really gives the governor and a small group of people the ability to decide where all this money goes. And the taxes on cannabis alone, first year estimated $1.5 billion. And we're dropping 60% of that into the enforcement of UMA, 20% into the creation of cannabis rehabs. What kind of future are they really setting up for us? Gotcha. All right, crushing the mic and crushing Omar.
All right, thank you. Hold on. All right. All right, thank you, Patrick, for sharing that with everybody. Of course, our audience from the Eskwilax Hour. And right now, we're going to have David come on. And this is the David Marotta from the 7th letter. Cool.
How you doing? How's everything going?
Good. Again, thank you guys for being here, being on the show. And okay, David, you want to tell us a little bit on?
You know, my background in this is the way I got involved in this is I woke up one day and my hand was weak and my leg was weak. And as it progressed on, I ended up getting diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and I got to the point where I couldn't use the right side of my body. They had me on all kinds of different kinds of prescription pills and, you know, Vicodins, the whole spectrum of all that stuff. And one of my friends said, hey, like, why don't you just turn to cannabis and try cannabis? And I was like, yeah, but I mean, I need something that's really gonna work, because I mean, I'm at the point in my life like where I'm not gonna be able to paint ever again. I mean, my background is as a graphic designer, and I thought to myself, I'm never gonna be able to work again and do what I do in my trade. I can't use my right hand anymore. I can't use the right side of my body, period. I'm not gonna be able to get around. I can't do so many jobs, and I went through all kinds of issues and depression and stuff like that, and eventually I turned to the cannabis to treat myself.
What year was this that you got
This is
diagnosed?
about 9 years ago.
You got diagnosed 9 years ago?
About 9 years ago, going on almost 10 years.
How long were you doing the whole pills and
I did that for about, I only did it for a short period of time, about 7-8 months, and I got addicted really fast. I got to the point where I was lying to myself, stealing Vicodins from myself, and I just realized that there's a point that this can't go on like this. And then I started, my friend had mentioned the cannabis, and I had Googled a lot of stuff, and I was looking around, and Montel Williams is a big prominent guy that has multiple sclerosis, and he came out and he's spoken in front of the Senate, Congress, and stuff like that about cannabis and medical marijuana, and he really helped pave the way for a lot of this too. And so I started getting more interested, like, how's this gonna help me? And the meanwhile, I was fighting the system, I didn't have insurance, and we were going through all these different laws were changing. We're getting Obamacare was trying to come in, and I didn't have insurance. I couldn't see a doctor. I couldn't see a neurologist. All they could give me was pain pills, and I was in so much pain it wasn't even funny. I was walking around with the feeling like I had a knife in my back all day and a knife in my head all day, and I was just like, I can't live like this. I can't continue like this. I got to the point of depression where I felt suicidal, and all these different things were happening with me. And then so I turned to cannabis, and I started learning about it and learning what kinds helped me. And then I started learning about CBD. I mean, this movement, this illegal movement that we've been under for a long time has brought together a lot of facts and put together a lot of information for us. And none of it has been backed up by the medical, scientific data. They don't want to put it out there because they don't want us to know that information. They don't want us to know that you could take cannabis as a medicine. I mean, I didn't know that in the before 1930, all medicine was cannabis based, and I didn't know none of these facts. I knew nothing about cannabis, CBD, anything regarding any of that stuff. And I kind of thought that medical marijuana, I've been high before. That didn't make me feel better, like into a way, like I thought I could treat myself, and now I know a completely different version of reality. And
yeah,
I've seen it firsthand, and now that's where I'm at. And then I got involved in this because I started reading these laws, and I started realizing what they're going to do to patients like me. And I mean, I have to produce a lot of cannabis. I mean, for me to be able to afford it, to go to a club every month, and the amount of cannabis that I intake is a big number. It would cost me probably $5,000 a month in a cannabis shop, and they want to put this 25% UMA tax on top of it, sales tax, and a few other taxes. And we're going to look at a 45% increase in taxes. And so when I go to a store and I buy an eighth of marijuana for $45, I might be paying up to $90 to $100 for some cannabis grown by people that hate cannabis, people that don't know what we need, don't know how it works, or if they do know how it works, they don't want it to work for us. They don't want us to turn to that.
They want to turn into like everything else, like all the
Exactly, and when we have these, we have big pharma, and they're scared. I mean, we're at the point where in legal states where it's legal for medical marijuana, pill sales are down. Pill sales for all different kinds of elements are down because people are turning to cannabis.
And suicides are down.
And suicides are down, and even I want to talk about the veterans too. I mean, the veterans also, their PTSD, they come back and they put them on crazy amounts of pills, and these people, eventually pills stop working. Pills will only work for so long. Your body will build an immunity to it and it will no longer work, and then you're stuck. Your body goes into clinical depression, you get suicidal, you get all these different aspects, and I've seen it myself firsthand. I was never depressed at all at any point in my life, and when I was sick and taking these pills and I stopped taking them, I went into deep depression. I didn't even want to communicate with people outside.
And so you've been doing it for, you said, 9 years?
I've been using it for about 8 years
You've
now.
been
I've
growing-
used it before, but I mean, I've been using it for medicinal, to treat myself,
and to
for
grow it,
multiple
right?
sclerosis for about 8 years. I grow it. I grow it for myself. I grow it for others, about 4 others that are, some of my friends are patients with MS. I teach them how to grow. I'm helping them do outdoor gardens in their garden. And one of the really big things that bothered me with this UMA law they're trying to pass was they want to ban outdoor growing of cannabis.
That's what
all
I was
over
gonna tell you.
California.
Like, that's how you came into this particular prop. That
Right,
it's
and I said there's no way you could do that. There's
turn
no
you
way you could
into
take this
a-
away from patients like
yeah.
me, because we need this. I need this to be able to function and walk and survive and, take care of myself. And, I'm at the point of desperation. I decided I need to get involved in this fight because this is a huge fight and it's really important that, like if I don't stand up, maybe no one will, and then I'll just sit around and regret. And I decided that's not good enough for me, and I decided it's time for me to get involved and do more. And I want to inform the people too, like about outdoor grown cannabis. I mean, the full spectrum of the sun brings so much more to cannabis, terpenes and different kinds of stuff, and brings out more of it. THC, the way it's created is the flower of cannabis uses the THC to sunscreen itself from the UV rays, and we get all these there's all these different compounds in marijuana besides THC. I mean, there's CBD, CBN, THCA, THCV, and these all treat different ailments, and these all help people, kids with epilepsy, kids with cancer, kids with everything. I mean, there are scientific studies that cannabis kills cancer and sends cancer to commit suicide.
I've heard that before.
And with that being the case, you would think that our government or whoever would say like, hey, we want to get involved in this, but the only thing the government ever did was patent all these things and say like, we want to control this as whatever,
It's
and
like
then they want to come
everything
and
else.
put their taxes on it. I mean, the way I feel as a patient, if I go to CVS right now and I get an opiate drug, like whatever it may be for pain management or whatever, I don't pay taxes there. There's no taxes, but they want to come and they want to regulate. And I understand a little bit to a point, because it is, to a point, because I mean, we're at the point that they want to limit us to 6 plants. That's not enough for somebody like myself to grow my own medicine, treat myself. I juice cannabis, I make CBD, I make hybrid CBDs. I'm trying to find the perfect medicine for myself. And since the government didn't tell us how to get it when we passed Prop 215 and there was no information on it, I had to learn this all on my own. I had to learn this from people in the community that were more than willing to help, that were more than willing. And we have a great cannabis community, and we've done big steps in the cannabis community, and they're trying to use those things for their campaign to get us to believe in this fake legalization. There's no legalization about the UMA law. UMA specifically bans outdoor growing, and that affects all the patients like me. And what about the people that can't afford to spend $5,000-$10,000 on their indoor grow and get their indoor operation going? And when we have the lieutenant governor come out and he says, I hate cannabis, I hate the smell of cannabis, and I'm concerned that I'm going to be growing some cannabis in my yard and they're going to come and kick my door in, take me to jail, and all for what? For treating myself? I mean, I don't think. It's a lot of work to grow cannabis. It's not a simple thing. I mean, so I want to avoid all stuff. I try to comply by the law. I do everything by the book. I do nothing illegal. I don't get involved in anything else. I do everything that Prop 215 tells me that I'm allowed to do. And when I found out these people want to take those Prop 215 rights away from me, which are constitutionally protected in the California Constitution, it scares me because I have no one to back me up at that point. What happens is if we get in trouble, when UMA passes, I might be in jail for 5 years just waiting for trial and just waiting for them to figure out all that's going on with this law. And they can't make a change to the UMA law till 2028. So regardless of if we decided this is the right thing, they can't make that change till 2028. So we're looking at 12 years before anything can happen. And that scares me. It scares me to death. And I'm at the point where I don't know what else I got to do. Do I have to move out of California? But if this passes here in California, I feel it's going to trickle down to the rest of these states. And I feel all these politicians that have been misappropriating our funds for California for sales tax and all the other things. Like, you can't use cannabis as an excuse to fix all your problems and all your budget issues and stuff like that. I feel like taxation on cannabis is the amounts that they want to tax are insane. I mean, it's not even reasonable. I mean, if sales tax is only 10%, why would I pay 45% for this? I mean, it makes no sense at all.
Yeah, no industries could thrive or survive that kind of taxation.
And you were mentioning Colorado earlier, right?
Absolutely.
What's
unlimited taxation, which again, they just raised the level up near 50% now when you put it all together. And no rights to smoke. They had actually hosted the world famous High Times Cannabis Cup, started in Amsterdam many years ago, and then they were carrying it on 420, was the big one now for the world. It got kicked out of Colorado this last year because they realized, looking closer at the law, it's legal, but you can't get groups of people together and share smoke. So they ended the cannabis cups in Colorado, bumped it here to San Bernardino. So with our 20-year-old medical law, we're hosting the World Cannabis Cup for High Times, and Colorado's sitting there all legal, but they don't know where they smoke. They're scared. They're smoking in their houses and hoping their neighbors don't complain. That's what I mean about the permanent second-class citizenship. They can tell us we're free, but if we got to sit in the back of the bus, if we have to make sure everyone doesn't smell us for the rest of our lives, if we have to worry about all these, that's not real freedom. It's a lie.
And also too, they don't, with the UMA law, they're not going to want you to smoke outside. And if I'm smoking in my residence and my neighbors complain, then they call the police. I could be fined or whatever. But my landlord could also come over and tell me, like, hey, you got to get out. You can't live here anymore. Hey, you can't grow that here anymore. And I have all those rights protected now under Prop 215.
215, right?
And there's kids that have epilepsy that have hundreds of seizures a day, and if their parents need to grow cannabis, 6 plants is not going to be enough. It takes 10, 11, 13 weeks to prepare your cannabis, grow it. I mean, from seed to finish, it's a long time. I mean, I can't tell you an exact.
It's a crop.
It's a crop, and then you have to go through it, and then you have to process it, because then you have a kid that needs to take it, and then you have to make it into somehow they could swallow it. Kids aren't smoking for they're taking different extracts that they take orally.
Life-threatening diseases. They're not.
But I mean, these parents are desperate. I mean, their kids are having 100 seizures a month, and they take cannabis, and they go down to 1 seizure a month. That's major. And if I have to be in fear that I have to keep the smell down or whatever, because Gavin Newsom's kids might smell it, and he's offended by that. I'm offended by him being in charge of the UMA and the UMA control board, and I just don't understand how these politicians that are openly against cannabis, they want to use it for their benefit. They want to use it for their financial benefit, but they want to turn people like me and friends of mine into criminals, and all we're trying to do is medicate ourselves and treat ourselves for the diseases that I got from ingesting stuff from Monsanto and all their crazy GMO process stuff. It's not good for our body, and our body rejects it. Our body doesn't even know how to process a lot of GMOs. What happens is our body turns it into fat, and then here we have an epidemic of overweight people in America, and it goes back to the problem. I mean, it goes even more deeper than that. When they make the GMO, they have to spray these plants with Roundup all day. So when you ingest these plants, they're full of Roundup, and that's why we're getting cancer. There's like Roundup's a known cause for cancer, and we're in a situation that they want us to eventually go over to a GMO marijuana, and then what happens when we smoke that? What's going to happen to our central nervous system? Where are we going to be at? And where's my brain going to be at in 5 years after smoking a GMO cannabis? And I basically refuse. I'd rather just suffer and die.
I hear that.
Yeah, so the first they started with the food, and now they're trying to
Absolutely.
moving on to medical medicine. Yeah.
And as a historical perspective, the first 100, 150 years of this country, you were required by law to grow cannabis. You made it to this country, they gave you a bag of 100 seeds, and they said, if we come back next year and you got nothing growing, we might give you one more chance. If you come back another year and you got nothing growing, we're going to take your land back away from you, because America could not survive. Humanity never thought about surviving without cannabis hemp until 100 years ago. And there's this school of anthropology that's growing right now that's starting to recognize historical data that says for the last 200,000 years, 80% of the human diet was cannabis. Mostly the seed was, it's the perfect human, and maybe the only definable perfect human food on the planet, the hemp seed. But I believe the vast majority of that 200,000 years, we ate the whole colas. We ate the whole plant. We just consumed the entire plant. That explains the endocannabinoid system that's woven into every part of the human body, our digestive, our immune system, our nervous system. Every part of us has receptors for cannabinoids, because 80% of our diet is like the koala bear with the eucalyptus leaves.
Yeah.
Right. It's the same thing.
Same thing, and we're meant to ingest this.
Right.
Some
species,
I've heard that before. Yeah.
Some species diversify their diet. Most species specify, make a very specific one thing they can survive on. We did that, and in the last 100 years, the system has said your food's no longer your food. Up until the 17, up until the early 1900s, we called it gruel. And most people recognize gruel from Shakespeare and Chaucer and Dickens and history and little references to it. But if you look closer, it's everywhere. It's referenced everywhere. It was human food. Gruel is hemp seed, like oatmeal's oats. So gruel is hemp meal, and apparently that's all we ever ate, except every once in a while the princes, or they throw big parties with the kings and everyone would eat a little pheasant or something, right?
Yeah, but
we throw some berries on top of our gruel. But if 80% of our diet was gruel, that's just a little something every day on top of it. That's our food. And we will talk, we're very concerned about all these different levels that we've lost here. At the root, I think the 20th century will be remembered as the century they experimented and tried to starve humanity. Took away our central food source, said, eat beans and rice. That's what you're supposed to eat. Eat beef, eat chicken. Everyone in the world was told, here's what your traditional diet is, but it no longer can, drink milk, but it no longer has hemp seed in it. They tried to erase it. They took it off all the labels in the Smithsonian. They went through the Smithsonian and relabeled everything to have flax or linen and took out the word hemp. So, I mean, that's the level we've gone through. We've erased our history, George Orwell style. I mean, going back and rewriting our history to say something different so we can't get to our root. And at the root is always hemp. The Roman roads were built out of hemp. The canna blossom that Jesus used, the holy anointing oil, the #1 ingredient was canna blossom. That's cannabis blossoms. That's the tip of the flower of the cannabis plant. Yeah. So all through our history are these references, and the War of 1812 was about Russia and England's hemp trade and who was going to be able to get the hemp to Americas or not, right? I mean, this has been the central theme of our entire history, and here we are. Here we are entering the 21st century, rediscovering it, but do we give it the importance and time to save it, or do we hand it over to the globalist billionaires and let them do with it like they did petroleum?
Yeah, and it's just like you said, they erased it. Because I personally, all the stuff you're mentioning, that's the first time I'm hearing it, that they had hemp that far in history, that they were eating it, and it's part of the diet, and kept you healthy.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I mean, it was all the medicine that we use was all cannabis based. And I mean, like there's a known link from milk to people getting MS, and there's a protein in milk that our immune system attacks that protein, and our spine has that same protein on it. And I could have got it from the combination of everything, ingesting the GMOs, drinking the milk, whatever. But once I found out how powerful cannabis was, and once I found out about CBD and the different compounds that could help me, THCA, et cetera, all these different things, I thought to myself, like, why have we never been informed on this? Like, why is this not, when I was a kid and I was in school, I opened a book and it showed a guy smoking marijuana, and it looked like he was getting electrocuted. And I remember going, wow, and they said, this is the worst drug of them all. And I remember saying, this is the craziest one. Like, you take marijuana, you get electrocuted. Like, whoa, like, I definitely want nothing to do with that. And, even, with all that being said, it's like here we are, and we're in the 21st century, and we supposedly know all these things. We've supposedly been to the moon, back and forth, and all kinds of stuff like that. But we make cannabis look like this bad demon drug.
Demonize it,
But then they want to bring it back in to make tax money off of it, and then they want us to control the amount we have. Like if I want to buy liquor right now, I can go to the liquor store and clean the whole liquor store as long as I have the money. And I could fill my car up, and I could drive down the street with it. I could go to my house, have people come over. I could charge them to come into my house and have a party as long as we don't have a noise problem. But if I go with the UMA law, if I'm going to have more than an ounce of marijuana, 29 grams, I can be arrested. And that scares me. That scares me. I need to smoke 29 grams probably every day. I mean, that's probably like my everyday cycle of how much I need to smoke to keep myself healthy. And I need to ingest it, and I need to juice it. I need to grow plants. I grow specific plants just to juice it every single morning. And you know, when I don't have those plants, I could feel it. When I don't have CBD, I could feel it. And our body makes CBD. Like Patrick was saying, we have the CP1 receptor and the CP2 receptor, and that's all over our body. And we're meant to ingest this. This is for our central nervous system, for our immune system, for everything, all of our functions. And there is a specific kind of cannabis, or a specific compound in all cannabis for different elements and different diseases and different everything. And it's scary that they want to take that away and make it not work and introduce GMO marijuana to take away all the health benefits that we could get from this plant. And people are just misinformed. They use these legalization words. They show these kids suffering.
I saw the website.
They do all this stuff, and at the end of the day, it's like they don't care about those people as long as those people are spending the money. I mean, MS medicine for me is $90,000 a year if I want to take MS medicine, and if I don't have $90,000 a year, the only thing I could do is go through one of these hospitals, and they might have trial drug thing going on, and I could I could be a guinea pig, and that might work for me for 6 months. But who knows what's going to happen in 20 years
down the road.
And you know, when the doctor told me like, hey, we want you to take this one, it's a beta serine and blah, blah, blah. And I go, well, what's that? He's like, oh, it's like a chemotherapy. So they basically wanted to poison my body to hope that the disease would stop temporary, so it wouldn't continue to progress, because MS is a progressive disease, and then hope that I got better taking their pills and all the extra stuff that I would need to take. And once you take the one pill, then you get heartburn, so then you need the pill for heartburn, then you get this and acid reflux, whatever.
Snowball effect.
It's just snowball effect. Next thing you know, you're on 20 different pills.
Yeah, that's.
And for me, I only need about 2 or 3 different types of cannabises. I mean, I need a CBD, I need a 2-to-1, a CBD and a THC. I mean, there's a few things that I haven't even experimented with yet because I have no access to it, because they gave us no access to it, and here we are with no access. And I'm worried that I'm going to lose my precious plants that I had to breed to get to help me at my stage of where I'm at in life with MS, and I'm scared to death. So I say, hey, I'm on board no matter what, and here we are.
Yeah, and definitely we gotta get more information out there, just so everybody knows what exactly they're hiding behind the both. Yes, because I just mentioned, I saw the website is all nice and it tells you all the great things supposedly that it's gonna do.
They stole all our talking points.
Yeah.
Those have been our talking points for 20 years.
That's what we've been arguing for legalization. This is like I'm saying, like the kids, here's these kids suffering, but this cannabis helps them. So we've been fighting to get this stuff, and then some states will be like, okay, CBD is legal, but you can't extract it. So then they're like, okay, what do? We just eat it raw? I mean, so that's what you have to do. There's no choice. And parents have literally given up everything they have in life, their careers, their houses, their cars, and they've moved to states like Colorado just to have the right to grow their own, just to protect their kids. I mean, the kid's brain probably doesn't stop developing when you're getting seizures consistently all day long, and that's scary.
That is.
And you know, inflammation and all the stuff that we have. I mean, that's all the toxins that we're ingesting. The GMOs. Our body treats a GMO just like eating plastic. It treats it as a toxic. And you know, here we are. They say the GMOs are safe for us, but the GMOs aren't safe for us, and they've proven it over and over and over again. But that will never get put out in the public eye. We'll only hear about this is where saving the world from starvation. But if we all grew our own food, we wouldn't have any of these starvation problems. We'd be trading and doing all kinds of stuff. Yeah. But I'm not trying to push that system on everyone. I'm trying to tell everyone that we need this plant, and we need to grow more than 6 plants. It can't be just about 6 plants. I mean, that's not enough for us. That's not enough for a patient like me.
You could start with 6 plants, and by the time you actually get done, have 2 or 3. It's not an easy thing to do.
And then you need your next round of plants.
Exactly.
And then, so you have to have 6 to have 6, and then you need the mom of that. So there's 13. Next thing you know, you have 20. And I mean, it's hard to take care of 20 plants, and if you want to get forced into an indoor small grow 10 by 10 situation like the UMA law is suggesting, I will not be able to produce enough cannabis for myself. They go and they put these exaggerated numbers. These guys are making $100 million out of this 10 by 10 area, and that's not even the reality. It has nothing to do with all the costs that incur with all the lighting and the electric bills and the nutrients and the stuff, all the different stuff you need to buy, and the soils and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, we have historical precedent after the alcohol prohibition. The 10 years after alcohol prohibition, more people went to prison than the 20 years of alcohol prohibition. So during the 20-year war to control alcohol in this country, which is mostly about fuel, but they, the gangsters, the fighting, all that, then they made it legal. No one's ever heard a word about what happened afterwards, but more people had their lives ruined, had their houses broken into, a whole thing, than during prohibition. So once it becomes legal, we know they can do it because they've already done it before.
And that's what's going to happen with the UMA, because everyone's going to be caught in litigation. People were doing this stuff before, and they're not going to understand why they can't do it anymore, and people are going to go to jail. And then we have our youth, the 18 to 21-year-old kids, they're going to live they're adults at this point. They're not even kids. Excuse me, legal adults at this point are not going to be able to go buy cannabis or smoke it. And if they do get caught, they're going to have to get sent to a rehab. So all this tax money they're going to raise is going to go to rehabilitation programs. The UMA Police Department, they're going to have their own police force to go and shut down all the competition. I mean, this is the model we've seen from Monsanto before with our farming industry. And they come and they kill all the competition. They go, they find the genetic markers. They say, this is our cannabis. We own the right to this.
They literally
they didn't give us access to the seed. But so, like the fact that they're allowed to patent nature is beyond me. But I don't even know what that's about. I haven't even looked that deep into it. But at the end of the day, it's like, if I got a cannabis seed off of a plant that I found in the wild and I took it home and I grew it, and they came out and they were going to test my plants to see if I had any genetics that belonged to these people, then they find that, they would take my whole crop, my whole harvest, then I'd be stuck with no medicine, then I'd be sick, then I might start to use the right side of my body again. And I can't afford that.
And then you get sick and they'll feed you their pills, their medicine.
I won't be able to pay my rent. I won't be able to pay my bills. I'll be homeless. I'll be on the street. I mean, it literally is that dramatic. And I try to tell people, like, every single day, like, I need this plant. I'll have to move out the country if they implement these kind of laws all across America. That scares me. I don't want to leave Los Angeles.
And
Absolutely.
how many states?
We're fighting.
We're fighting. We're here today. We're here today.
Yeah.
We're not leaving.
Yeah, and we defeated Prop 19 in 2010. It started out polling at 60%.
Right.
And it lost at 47% because the community got out and educated people. That's not the type of legalization we were talking about.
Right.
And people woke up in California. We really care about this crop. This is the #1 cash crop in this state. This has created a reputation. Now that it's about to go legal, that's worth tens of billions of dollars.
Right, now all the big corporate interests come in.
Yeah, now
Right. But if we can protect ourselves, not against them, or against them, we don't try to stop them from competing in the market.
Yeah, we're not worried about that.
We're not going to cut them off. We just weren't going to let them cut us off.
But we do want to ban GMO cannabis in California. And when we were doing the CCHI campaign, part of this was to ban the GMO cannabis. And we don't want that in America, but then we have our president signing the Monsanto Protection Act, and we have them, the DARK Act is going to get signed by Obama soon too. And the guy that funded Obama's campaign is the major shareholder of Monsanto. And it's real scary. It's real scary to see the people that are in power in this country are put on by these corporations that want to make us into criminals or make us into their zombie pill slaves. And I could care less if they stop selling any opiate drug at all, ever.
Yeah.
Amen, right. No, we have a plan for the 21st century that doesn't look exactly like the 20th century. And with it may be the loss of global warfare. Because resources are what we fought for my whole life. Right. I've got a little Mercedes-Benz, one of the older Mercedes-Benz, a diesel. It's been running on hemp oil for 7 years. Because in my whole life, they've told me every war that's been going on since I've been around has been about oil. This resource, this limited resource that these kings in Saudi Arabia and a few guys in Venezuela and these guys in Texas that got control of. And apparently we really need it. Then I've come to learn we don't really need it. We never really needed it. The alcohol prohibition was technically about fuel. All Americans were making their own homespun, 5 cents a gallon, locally produced, clean burning fuel. And they made a prohibition against it, so we lost the fuel, but they all said it was about drinking. It wasn't. They're saying the same thing about cannabis right now.
Yeah, I was going to say, they're just using one thing to cover for
Right.
Absolutely, there's moralism. They're protecting us from ourselves and protecting us from these evil forces in nature. Meanwhile, selling us nuclear power, right? There's, I mean, again, the most dangerous theme on the planet. They got nuclear power plants all over the world doing what hemp could do for pennies a gallon.
Yeah.
And that's what we're fighting for. We're fighting for our human rights, we're fighting for our dignity, we're fighting for basic American principles,
Absolutely.
but we're fighting for the raw resources of the 21st century. And I think the bigger establishment and system comes to understand that they can't keep pushing nuclear and petroleum for another 100 years. They will destroy the planet if they go that path. So they know they're going to pull back and go bio-natural again, but how could they control it all? Prohibition. We convinced the world that it was once very dangerous. Then we could justify. Because 100 years ago, for the Rockefellers and Rothschilds to say, all right, we're going to control the hemping on the wars of War of 1812. All these wars broke out because no one's going to give up their hemp. 100 years of prohibition, we're pretty much just glad to have it at 7-Eleven and, end the war. Except we aren't here in California. We're going to stand up for
like a lot of people talk about ending the war. The war is on the patients. The war is on people like me. The war is not on the cartels. They're not going after the big guys. I mean, they might be, but really this war is on the patients and the people of California. And a lot of people don't realize this is a direct assault. They want to weaponize our cannabis and use it against us. And that's my standpoint on it and my point of view on it. And it might not be everyone's point of view, but at the end of the day, that's what I'm worried about, is letting them turn this medicine into something to hurt us. And we think we worked all this tireless hours to put all this information out for the people, and I wouldn't want to tell you that, hey, cannabis can help your multiple sclerosis, but then you have to get a GMO version of it from a 7-Eleven, and you take that, and it gives you some kind of brain tumor, kills you quicker, or all the Roundup inside of you, get another cancer inside your head. That's what I'm worried about.
One thing leads to another.
Absolutely.
It's horrible that they're trying to use, like you said, your words and then turn it into
propaganda for them to convince you like legalization is all right on their terms. And like a lot of their terms are just unreasonable. I mean, they're like, we have 62 pages of regulation. I mean, I could read them all day. I mean, all the red right here is all the bad, all the negative about what this hidden agenda is right here. It's all right there written down, and they're going to take away our ability to smoke outside. I mean,
yeah, you're very lucky today to have Letitia Pepper come in and be able to explain this herself. She's really one of the top ranking attorneys on the West Coast. And it took her to explain it to us. Again, I've read hundreds of these various versions that have been passed or versions that have been introduced. And this one in particular, we were all stumped on a month or two into it, still reading through it, not
still
sure
understanding
exactly
what does that mean? What's that word?
And that's the way they do it.
By law, they're supposed to make these readable for the layperson. So there's so many levels at which this campaign in particular is already broken, or at least badly twisted and distorted the law to get to this point.
Right.
And then to have so many Trojan horses within one bill is profound.
Or the power to only have 2/3 of the vote make a change on it without the voters' approval. So like they could just say like, hey, these guys, they're making money on the side. We don't want that, so we just change that. Or hey, they're doing this. Oh, they're treating themselves medicinally. We don't want that.
Yeah, you don't want to do it.
You don't want them to use the big pharma pills, and with them losing sales all the time, and they're scared they're going to be out of business.
They're essentially they see it as taking away their business, where people are just trying to treat themselves because people don't want to die.
But the stuff that they're giving us doesn't work. The pills they're giving us only they all poison us, and they only temporarily stop maybe some pains or some issues, whatever, but eventually those pills all stop working. So then you're back in square one. I still have disease, and I feel cannabis cures. I feel cannabis can help all these elements, all these issues, all these problems, and they don't want that. They want us to slowly be poisoned over time, and that's sad.
The principles of self-sufficiency need to be fundamental in the 21st century. We need to be planning and thinking about how do we take care of ourselves. With technology and culture the way it is right now, we can build earthships. We can produce our own electricity, we can produce our own food, we can produce our own medicine, we can produce our own fuel. If we can decentralize those basic principles, again, no need for warfare. No nation's going to run to the other nation across the world to take away their hemp if you got hemp growing, right? We can literally end this need for this sense of we don't have enough. That's how they convince everybody to go to war. We don't have enough. Something's going to go wrong. We're not going to be able to feed our families because of them. But once you have a sustainable culture that can take care of itself.
A renewable resource as well, like where we could just constantly keep replanting. And that's what a lot of people don't see. We have deforestation happening, and we could end all that. we could change all that right now with legalizing hemp and cannabis and all of its sisters and brothers. Or
Jack Hare in his book, The Emperor Wears No Clothes, quotes the Agriculture Department of America's study saying that 6% of our feral land, not feral land, but it's a farm reserve. So we have hundreds of thousands of acres of farming. We have that much land almost set aside in case something went terribly wrong. They could start with almost the same amount of land. So we have a reserve of farming land in America that we're not using right now. 6% of that land growing hemp can produce the fuel America needs domestically right now. So we're not talking about like stopping growing corn. We're not talking about like they do with ethanol.
Using land that's not being used and just little pieces of it. 6%. It's nothing.
Yeah.
We're also creating a new industry and we're creating new jobs with that, you know, and there's all kinds of different companies that will come out of this. I mean, once people started learning about CBD, all types of people are making different types of CBD medicines now, salves and stuff you take, capsules, and I mean, they're helping all kinds of elements. And you know, but we're to the point where we don't have the research because marijuana has been a Schedule I drug, or cannabis. I hate to use the word marijuana. Cannabis has been a Schedule I drug. And you know, I mean, even the act is called the Adult Use of Marijuana Act. I mean, like, marijuana is a slang term that they made up to slander the plant and make it seem like this horrible thing. And like I said, like I went back to the school book. You use marijuana, you get electrocuted. You know?
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
Again, yeah, this Prop 64 thing, it's just bad. I myself, I read over some of the words, and I'm just like, this sounds like just what they did to like vegetables or food in general. That you know, they're taking one thing and then just trying to make it for themselves, keep it to themselves, and just kind of turn into poison.
The problem with like a lot of, like, say in the farming industry, for example, is, you know, these people, they get subsidized to grow GMOs, and if you grow organically, you need to get all your stuff organically certified. And there's people that live 3 miles away from a GMO farm that's spraying Roundup all day, and that's misting down from the air through the wind, and it's getting on their crop, and they come in to get it tested. They grew it all organically, they did everything right. They get it tested and it has pesticides on it, and it fails, they lose their whole crop. And farmers commit suicide losing their whole crop. They're gonna lose everything. They're gonna lose their house, their farm, the whole deal. And that's what's been happening. And I didn't know any of this stuff because we were never educated about GMOs. We were never educated about any of this. I didn't even know what a GMO was until about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. There were periods of time in India where 700-800 farmers a day were committing suicide because they lost their farms due to this kind of Roundup, GMO, Monsanto scam. There are a couple different angles they got with it. When they want everyone's land, they'll come and take it. And in India, if you commit suicide or if you die, the debt doesn't go on to your family.
Yeah.
So the protecting is just to kill yourself. That's a family honor killing. You kill yourself to get out of debt. Hundreds and hundreds a day. This is the backside of this kind of business model. There's enough on this planet. There's a Stanford study that says we can produce, and we produce right now enough to support 100 billion people on this planet. The system, the governments, even a lot of academia today is really aimed at convincing us there are too many people. We're the problem.
Right, the people
and yet
are the problem.
nothing could be further from the truth. They've consolidated us into hundreds of little pockets where they can't get enough resources in there, and they purposely deny us all the usable, normal things we'd be using. Funguses, algae, hemp. I mean, there are so many resources that we could naturally be using.
Or the dandelion that we spray Roundup on all day and we kill. There's so much in the dandelion, even for the honeybee, and that's why we're losing the honeybees, and that's why our crops, we might lose a bunch of crops because the bees won't be able to pollinate the crops, and then what do we do?
Because we spent 50
we say, hey,
years
that food is extinct. There's no more strawberries. There's no more whatever. Like, you know, I just think that's horrible, and I can't believe people aren't enraged in California. I mean, people are protesting around the world against these companies, Monsanto. And once I knew Monsanto was involved in the UMA behind it and helping fund it, and not just this one, and all these legalizations in Colorado, in Washington, where they took the medical rights away from them.
And in Ohio, where they rejected it less than a year ago.
Yeah, in Ohio.
So the same group funding this one, a similar style bill.
Right?
Yeah, and Prop 19, right. Again,
Prop 19.
They've been drooling over this for a long time. Prop 19 was California's bill in 2010.
But they tried to
got on the ballot
in Ohio, similar.
No.
Right. So
but Ohio rejected it. But also, I mean, it's a little bit different. Like, we're here in California where people are a lot more liberal, and And like, they're using these words like legalization, and people are going like, "Oh, that sounds great. Like, I'm cool with it. I'm down with it. I don't smoke weed, but like, it's cool. I want those kids to get treatment and whatever else." They don't realize none of that's going to happen.
They're not well informed.
Well, they see Colorado. They say, "Here's the model. We have so much money that we're going to start building houses for the homeless." And people are like, "Man, we need that kind of tax dollars here in California." But none of that taxes is going to go to the general fund. So at this point, we're not, this law benefits none of us. It benefits literally this 1%, this little, not even the 1%, this little small percentage of people. And eventually the people that think they're protected from this law passing are gonna realize there's no protection in this law. Legalization is a privilege under UMA, and they could take it away from you at any time. And I can't see how you could live in any county in California, I don't care how rich it is or how poor it is, where you have a legalization in a state but you can't grow in your own neighborhood. You can't make your own medicine in your own yard or in your own closed bedroom or however they want to have it. And they have the right to ban local communities to grow their medicine. I mean, the outdoor ban by itself is insane because we get so much from the full spectrum of the sun. That does so much for the plant. And it brings out essential oils and terpenes and all this natural stuff that we need. And they want us to go inside and get these bright lights like this and try to mimic the outdoor thing.